Okay, I was asked to go over a couple of these questions. They're a little bit challenging, so let's take a look at how you might go about doing these. So I'm going to look at question number 1 first, and then I'm going to pick and choose a couple of other ones that I think are a little bit different. So that's, well, not number 1, I guess, the first one, which is number 27. Okay, so this gives us 2 points and the slope, and it wants us to find the missing coordinate. So let's just try here. Plugging into the slope formula. You know the slope formula says y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and that has to equal the slope. Now I wrote it this way because we're given the slope here, and we're trying to find something on the other side. So that's just why I wrote it backwards. So let's fill in. We've got negative 8 subtract 6, so negative 8 subtract 6 over x subtract 1. Now I know this has to work out to be negative 7 over 2. Now the top is negative 14, so already we've got something that looks a little odd because the other side says negative 7 is on top, which means that this has been reduced to lowest terms after plugging in these formulas. So since it's been reduced to lowest terms, we need to times this by 2 so that we get the same thing on top. And remember that whatever you do to the top, you have to do the same thing to the bottom. So the bottom also has to be multiplied by 2. Which actually means, if we take a look at it, that now we have a linear equation we can solve, because I know that x minus 1 has to equal 2 times 2 here, which is 4. So I'm just going to add 1 to both sides, plus 1, and we have x equals 5. So that one was pretty straightforward. Let's try a different one here. This one's a little bit different because this slope isn't given to us as a fraction already. Just remember that when you're given a slope that's not a fraction, it really is a fraction because you can write over 1 on anything that you want. So let's take a look at this one here. I'll move down here, 29. We're going to look at it. I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. I'm going to use this formula, and I'm going to go negative 6 subtract y, negative 6 subtract y, over negative 7 subtract negative 3, which is negative 7 plus 3. And that has to equal 2 over 1. So let's take a look. The top I can't do anything with. It's negative 6 minus y, and negative 7 plus 3 is negative 4. Which means that in order to turn this into something so that it's at the bottom, I'm going to need to multiply top and bottom by negative 4. Which means, and the bottoms are going to be equal now, so I just have to solve the equation for the top. So I'm going to get, the top has to be negative 6 subtract y equals negative 8. So now I'm going to add 6 to both sides. So negative y, maybe I'll write that in. We're going to add 6 to both sides. And I get negative y equals negative 2. Which means that y has to equal, let's just extend the page here, means that y is going to have to equal positive 2. So we found that answer. Now the only other things that I'm going to look at here are 2 different ones that have slightly different answers here for slope. We get a slope of 0 and a slope that's undefined. And you have to remember what kind of equations have slopes that are 0 or slopes, or what kind of lines, sorry, have slopes that are 0 or slopes that are undefined. Well, a slope of 0 is a horizontal line. And on a horizontal line, all the y's are exactly the same. Y's are equal. Since all the y's are exactly the same, this y that's missing must also be negative 5. So these ones, while they're a little odd, they're actually dead easy to do. And number 34, slope is undefined. Well, what kind of line has an undefined slope? That's a vertical line. And on a vertical line, all of the x coordinates are the same. Hopefully that makes sense to you. I'm just going to draw the Cartesian plane here. So we've got x here and y here. And if I have a vertical line on there, it runs through the same thing. It hits all of the different y's, but all the x's are all the same. So the x's are equal. So if we take a look at that, it's the x they're asking us to find, which means that this has to be exactly the same as the other one, which is -3. Hope that helps. Try some of the other ones yourself.